Hello everyone, this is just a short update on yesterday's Soyuz launch. Now, it got known a few hours after the launch that the actual deployment of the satellites apparently failed, and of course theories went kind of wild. There were some assumptions about the Vostochny Cosmodrome, the new Russian Cosmodrome, which only had one launch before this. This is the second launch from this new Cosmodrome, and it has a bit of a weird reputation since the first launch was a success, but apparently the Cosmodrome itself, the launch pad, sustained some minor damage during the launch, and then this was somewhat covered up, and theories went wild, and so the assumption was kind of in the room that maybe this launchpad had something to do with this in the beginning, but that was rather quickly disproven. Obviously, the launch itself went almost perfectly. The public was shown live footage of the complete lift-off and launch of the rocket itself. The failure seems to lay in the Fregat Upperstage. Now, the Fregat is an additional upper stage that can be mounted onto a Soyuz launch vehicle in order to give more versatility and a little bit more delta V to the payload. It's usually used for multi-payload launches, where the frigate can maneuver around after the initial Soyuz upper stage has already burnt out. The frigate can still maneuver around and deploy different payloads at different points at different orbits, and thus deliver several payloads into several orbits with one Soyuz, so it's kind of necessary for effective multi-payload launching, which is what it was used for in this case. Of course, it's also used in deep space exploration probe launches because it adds a little bit more delta V to the upper stage, and so it's more efficient in launching onto escape trajectories. So Russian or European Russian cooperation missions to Venus or Mars are usually carried out with a Fregat upper stage. This is also what it was initially developed for, but the design of the frigate is somewhat unreliable. It kind of depends on which frigate version, and the overall design is rather cleverly made. It saves space within the fairing by grouping the electronics bay and the two fuel and two oxidizer tanks into this hexagonal ring structure around the separator. And performance-wise, it's a great additional upper stage for the Soyuz, but it does have several reliability issues, both electronically and in terms of the rocket engines themselves, which has already led to a few failures before in terms of satellites being deployed in a slightly wrong orbit or not reaching the right orbit because the rocket engines had fuel supply issues. It's mostly a plumbing and thermal issue in the frigate, which has already led to two Galileo navigational satellites being deployed on a slightly wrong orbit in 2014, and also a few deep space probes remaining in low Earth orbit and then slowly getting back down to Earth through the slight atmospheric drag that is still present in low Earth orbit. The other common issue with the frigate are programming issues, not in the firmware itself, but in the individual programming for each mission, which can lead to either slight mistakes in the orbital parameters or to complete communications loss. And in this case, it was reported that the communication with the frigate and the payloads was lost shortly after launch, and now it's not completely confirmed what happened with the payloads, but they're most likely lost either in low Earth orbit or already re-entered and burnt up over the Atlantic. Most likely already re-entered, although this is not yet officially confirmed. Just waiting for confirmation. Much is still unknown about the specific launch failure, and so we can only wait for more information to be publicly released. Until then, though, we already know it's not a Cosmodrome issue, it's a Fregat Upperstage issue, so the launchpad worked perfectly fine this time. So I hope you found this interesting, and as always, thanks for watching.